your lordships, members of the governing body, senior management team, staff, boys, visitors. I'd like to say it's very good to be here, but of course it isn't. It's a very sad day for us. But I'd like to begin by thanking you for this wonderful gift, which will always remind us of Trinity and of the times that we spend here. And I know I speak for Viv as well as myself. I'd like to start this speech by thanking the Board of Governors of the school, as well as my wonderful senior management team, for organising today's farewell assembly. I would also like to thank those board members who've made it up to Candy for this event. As someone who has had to make that particular journey on countless occasions over the past 4 years, I know it is a long, uncomfortable journey from Colombo. So thank you very much indeed for coming. It's also good to welcome the man who will be taking over from me as acting principal on Saturday. Dr. Alan Whitcomb is known to many of you already. As the Bishop of Colombo said, he's an old boy of the school and a genuine intellectual with a PhD from MIT, one of the leading colleges in the USA. Until last month, he was also on the Trinity Board of Governors, so I'm sure he will have their full support during his time as acting principal. I've personally much enjoyed working with Dr. Whitcomb in a number of ways over the past 4 years. In particular, his passion for improving IT within the school aligns closely with mine. And he's been a much valued member of the admissions committee throughout my time as principal. In this vital committee, he has always shown himself to be a man of integrity, principle, sound judgment, and scrupulous honesty. I'm sure he will bring these qualities with him as he takes up his position as acting principal. I wish Alan all the very best of luck as he assumes his position, and I ask everyone in the Trinity community to give him their support. I arrived at Trinity in January 2016, so I've been principal for just over 4 years. During that time, much has happened, and the school has undeniably taken a giant step forward in its development and progress. Many principals seem to think just about the present day, but for me, it's always been about much more than that. It's been about making sure that as Trinity approaches its 150th anniversary, the school is in a strong position to move forward into its next 150 years. That's not to say that the present day is unimportant. Of course, what happens to the school and its students today matters greatly too. However, with an institution of the age and prestige of Trinity, it must be a primary role of any principal to ensure that he helps prepare the school for the future. That includes, on the one hand, being educationally progressive and bringing about essential change, whilst on the other hand, protecting those core values which are part of an old school's DNA. In Trinity's case, these are things like integrity, honesty, service to others, generosity of spirit. And it's vital to understand that these values can coexist happily alongside change and modernization. The two things are simply not mutually exclusive. Some of the things that we've brought in recently at Trinity are good examples of this. IT and technology in the classroom, introducing academic choice, especially with the introduction of London A-levels, raising the status of culture and the arts at Trinity, a 21st century non-physical approach to discipline, bringing back to Trinity a focus on English, but as well as mother tongue, thereby making our students genuinely if not trilingual. These are just some of the changes that have happened during the past 4 years. But contrary to what some foolish and prejudiced people with their heads in the sand might say, none of these in any way compromise or threaten the core values of Trinity. These are and must always remain sacrosanct. My passionate views on modernising education in this wonderful country are well known. Young Sri Lankans deserve so much better from their education system than they are currently getting. The current system, which has barely changed since the British left Ceylon 70 years ago, is hopelessly out of date and needs a total overhaul. It can be done, but only if there is a real desire to do so. Governments, schools, universities, teachers, parents, and even students themselves all need to work towards a common goal. Only if this happens will your children, when they are sitting here in 30 years' time, be part of a modern and successful Sri Lanka. No country has ever achieved first world developed status without a good, modern, functioning education system. Countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, even Bangladesh realized this years ago. Having been way behind Sri Lanka, they reformed their educational systems to reflect the changing world, and they are now way ahead of Sri Lanka in economic terms. Education and the economy are intrinsically linked. This is no coincidence. The tragedy is that Sri Lanka once had a superb education system, but has currently lost it. Resistance to change, linked with an arrogant belief among certain older people that what they had is still the best, means that young Sri Lankans are being denied their rightful chance to become successful and competitive in a world that is changing so rapidly. But today is not about lecturing you, it's about saying goodbye and celebrating what has been achieved in the last 4 years. I'm certainly not going to go through all the new projects that I brought in during my time as principal. We made a list of them the other day, as certain people tend to forget these things very quickly. The king is dead, long live the king. When you consider academic, extracurricular, structural, infrastructural, and administrative initiatives over the past 4 years, the number of significant initiatives done numbers well over 50. That's not 5, that's 50. Many of these could not have been achieved without the support of old boys who have worked together in joint projects with the school. These include the creation of almost 50 smart classrooms in the past 2 years alone, the rebuilt library in CLC, the renovation of this main hall, and the introduction of solar power. My hard-working head of administration, Mr. Ravi Amarasekara, prepared a list for me of all the major things, not including routine maintenance, that have been completed since 2016. There are 39 items on the list, some of which I've already mentioned. Others range from the recent installation of the first ever automated irrigation system at Asgiria Stadium through to recarpeting the Chapel Drive. Renovation and restoration of Gaster Block, Fraser Block, the Cop Room, the old science laboratory building, the swimming pool, the junior school, and the conversion of the matron's dormitory. There have also been significant and much needed improvements to the toilets and washrooms throughout the school, as well as to the security systems. This, of course, is particularly important given the tragic events of Easter Day last year. So as I leave you all this week, what are my disappointments and what are my proudest and favourite moments? I'm sad that the pressures of the job meant I never had enough time to do some proper classroom teaching, nor to learn much Sinhala. I would love to have done both. I'm sad too that many teachers never realised just how hard I supported and fought for them, ultimately a great personal cost to myself. Finally, I'm very sad that we never managed to win the Bradby during my time as principal. Hopefully, our rugby players will bring it home to Trinity this year. However, there is much on the other hand that we did win, and there have been many huge successes, far too many to mention them all here. A few of my personal highlights have been the excellent O and A level results. significant curriculum development in the junior school and now the middle school, the many successes of the first 11 cricket team, the brilliant performances of cultural groups like the choir and the drum and dance troupe, winning both the school Shakespeare competition and the Rugby Sevens in 2019 for the first time in many, many years, the memorable royal visit to Trinity in 2018, carol services in the glorious chapel, and the spectacular cultural shows, plays and concerts which have taken place each year at the school. I've also enjoyed being able to get to know many outstanding old boys, not only here in Sri Lanka, but in places as distant as Australia, Canada, UK and the Middle East. So finally, what am I most proud of? This is difficult to answer, as I've been proud of Trinity every day since I started. But personally, I'm perhaps especially proud of 4 things. 3 are predictable, I suspect. Firstly, managing to get the London A-level section up and running, something which Trinity had been trying to do unsuccessfully for many years. Secondly, setting up and masterminding Trinity 150, which, assuming it is completed, should ensure the school remains at the top of the educational tree for decades to come. Thirdly, I was extremely proud when Trinity was recently ranked the #1 most respected school in Sri Lanka. And I was also separately awarded an Asian Educational Leadership Award, which I received at a ceremony in Dubai. But when I look back at the last 4 years, I'm perhaps proudest of something I did very early on. And that is when, despite significant opposition from some people, I persuaded the Board of Governors and the Ministry of Education that we should take the little boy from Kuliapatir, who had been refused entry to his village school because of prejudice and ignorance about AIDS. I'm delighted to say that this boy is now in grade 5 and is doing really well at Trinity. He has even chosen to study in English medium, despite speaking not a single word of English when I first met him. Whenever I see him around the school, it makes me feel very proud. Not only that I took him, but that a great, prestigious school like Trinity College should be able to welcome somebody like that as one of their own. So now it's time to finish. I would like to thank the board who put their trust in me, and especially those men, women and boys at Trinity who have worked particularly closely with me over the past 4 years, and who supported my vision and direction for the school. I won't mention them all by name, as I don't want to embarrass them, or indeed to miss somebody out by mistake. But I'm talking about people ranging from the chaplain, vice principal and senior management team, right through to the unsung heroes of Trinity. People like peons, secretaries, drivers, pastoral and other support staff, many of whom have been at Trinity for much of their lives. They all know who they are, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart for what they do for the school, as well as for what they have done for me personally. Whatever I do in the future and wherever I go, I will always be passionate about Trinity. Being principal here has been the biggest privilege and honour of my professional life. I wish every one of you all the very best for the future, wherever it takes you. Respice finem.